It's never too late to think about your financial goals. Even as a student, there are many ways you can start building out your financial future. Budgeting is key and putting money aside is helpful too. But what if saving is a struggle? Are there ways to invest your money and make it grow? So attention all students. Here's how you can set yourself up for financial success. That's on this episode of the Upside Plus. You may be familiar with the 50-30-20 rule when it comes to budgeting. Allocating 50% for essential needs, 30% for wants, things that are not essential, and 20% for savings or paying down your debt. As a student or a young person, how do you tackle budgeting if you're just starting out in your career and savings are not easy to come by? What financial goals should you be aiming for? We went out and asked students about their financial goals and what investing means to them. As a young person, what are some of your personal financial goals?
Yeah, I think definitely saving as much money as I can, putting as much money as I could into my TFSA and my other savings accounts as much as possible. I definitely want to be able to afford a house soon and 3-4 years. That's kind of my timeline. So yeah, those are my main goals right now.
At the moment, some of my financial goals are to be mindful of my spendings and just budgeting that correctly. I do want to have a more stable ground when it comes to just my finances after graduation as a student.
Well, for the near term, as a young person, of course, it's to have a net worth that can sustain my cost of living and also have an emergency fund for rainy days. And for the longer term, my top goal, of course, is to be able to retire my parents and maybe have enough money and financial freedom to travel the world and do my other aspirations.
Yeah, for sure. So for my short term, I want to deposit at least $1,000 per month in my bank account. And for long term, I want to have enough more money for me to pay the down payment for a condo.
When it comes to investing, what 3 words pop into your mind quickly?
Yeah, I think growth is definitely a big one. Freedom. And I think for the last one, I'm going to go security.
3 words: compounding, risk, and resilience.
Okay, so the first thing comes in my mind is risk and return. And also, I believe that investing needs some research. And at the same time, it sometimes exists some uncertainty.
Patience, consistency, and just opportunity. I do find that investing can be pretty intimidating, especially as young adults, because we don't know much about what it comes to investing. That's not in high school, but I do find that through patience and just with the opportunity, I think it's a great method of just gaining financial stability.
What are some of the financial challenges that you face to save, to budget?
Yeah, I think definitely saving is a big issue for students. I think constantly going out on weekends with friends, having plans with other different people all the time. I think the main thing that you do as a young kid is you spend, and you don't really look at your expenses as much, because even when I look at it, I don't really understand what's happening, how I'm spending so much. When I see my monthly spend, I'm like, wait, I spent that much money? When did I? And I think as opposed to somebody who's a little bit older, who has a little bit more experience, and they have more financial literacy, I think they understand more how they're budgeting as opposed to us, where we just spend.
For me, first is things like if I want to invest in multiple stocks, it's a little bit time consuming for me to research in each of them and make the correct decisions. And also, as I'm a student, so I don't have the stable income, so it might be a little bit difficult for me to achieve my long-term and short-term goals.
Being mindful of my spending alongside with my tuitions and such, I do have to be mindful of not excessively taking those in-between classes coffee breaks. But I do think that building my habits when it comes to just spending is very helpful for me. And that is one thing that I really want to work on.
I think the biggest challenge as a young person for me is self-control. It's because we're at the age where FOMO, or the fear of missing out, is so rampant, and everyone's always encouraging you to treat yourself after every minor inconvenience. So I guess my biggest challenge is always going to be self-control.
So we know young people want to save and invest for things like travel, maybe their first home, or just putting aside savings for a rainy day. I sit down with sustainable investment analyst Julianna Martino, who shares insights on how students can start building out their financial future. Julianna, we know that students want a secure financial future, but why is it so important to set those financial goals?
Yeah, it's a great question. First of all, what is a financial goal? Financial goal is setting something that is specific and measurable, and it's an outcome that's related to something either money or investment related. And these tend to be either short-term or long-term in nature, so it's important for the individual to think what they're trying to achieve and when. In terms of why it's important, first of all, financial goals help to create focus and discipline. I think it's really easy to spend aimlessly without thinking when you don't have something that you're aiming to achieve, and so it helps to put those intentions into real actions. Secondly, it builds momentum and motivation. It feels really good to reach a goal. For example, if you are saving for a trip, when you finally go on the trip, you're like, this is exactly why I was saving for all this time. And so it builds that confidence, it builds that motivation and momentum. And lastly, it also creates that foundation for financial stability. Unfortunately, life only gets more expensive the older that we get. And so having these goals helps to prepare you for life's biggest moments, whether that's buying your first car or your first home or maybe for your education. It really sets that foundation for future financial stability as well.
Amazing. So write those goals down and set your intention and get motivated. Now, Julianna, Fidelity Canada has an amazing series called Money Gains to help improve students' financial literacy. You're involved with it. Explain what your main role is with the series.
Yeah, Money Gains is a really exciting project that I'm so thrilled to be part of. Really, it couldn't be what it is without the collaboration of various different stakeholders and groups. So really, it is a collaborative effort. But in terms of my role, myself and another colleague, we are responsible for developing the foundation and the framework for the content. So we have various different chapters out there around investment literacy where we're teaching the fundamentals and the basics of investing. Really, we take a look and decide what that framework for the chapter is going to look like, and we get guidance from executives and from leadership. So we have some great guidance, and we really sit down and think, what is it that we're trying to achieve? And also, what each content outline for each video is going to look like. Believe it or not, the individuals that are in our videos, they are talent from within the firm. Right. We call it our talent. So we do work with them to create the scripts as well and provide them guidance with that. And then also creating glossaries of terms, because I know some of these terms might seem complex, and so we want to break that down and ensure that they have a better understanding of these terms as well.
That's wonderful. So you help build out the content. Now, some of the lesson plans involve budgeting. So can you expand on that, Julianna, and especially how to budget effectively for young people?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, think of a budget as a money map. It's really a way to organize, track, and monitor your money and where it's going. And so there's various different methods in terms of how you can track your money. A great example that, one that I was familiar with is called the 50-30-20 rule. So that this is where 50% of your income or the money that you're generating is going towards the essentials. So maybe this is gas for your car, maybe it's groceries. These are things that we need. 30% of your income or the money that you're generating is going towards the fun stuff. It's things that you want. I love clothes. So this is where my money allocation might go to clothes. Maybe it's concerts, going out for dinner. This is the fun stuff. Yeah. And then 20% of your income or the money that you're generating is going towards savings or investments. And so this is what's helping to prepare for your financial future. And the reason why we set money aside is because it's difficult to set it aside otherwise if you're not thinking about it. So there's various different methods. In order to do it effectively, it's important to track your income and expenses. How much money are you making and how much are you spending? You could do this on a spreadsheet, in a notebook. There's different apps. There's various different ways that you can track. You want to set clear financial goals. We talked about how some are short-term and some are long-term. How much are you trying to achieve and when? Also creating a realistic budget. We want to think about what's going to be realistic based on the amount of money that we're making or how much we are spending, and also reviewing and adjusting accordingly. Yeah. My budget is not going to look the same as your budget, and it might have to change accordingly. And so that's really important when it comes to kind of budgeting effectively.
Okay, wonderful. Lots of great tips there. Now, another popular topic amongst young people, saving versus investing. There could be some confusion there. What's the difference?
Absolutely. Saving and investing, it sounds very similar, and in a way they are similar, but they are very different as well. And so the way I tend to think about saving, you're setting aside an amount of money, and it's typically for maybe a predetermined purchase or for an emergency fund. Typically, we tend to think of this more short-term in nature. So let's say I want to save for a vacation. This is where I might set aside maybe $20 of my paycheck every month, knowing that I want to go on this vacation. When it comes to investing, this is typically more long-term in nature. So this is putting your money to work in financial instruments, maybe stocks, bonds, mutual funds, exchange-traded funds. And you're doing this because you want to benefit from compound interest, which is having your money grow and work for you. Maybe my goal is that I want to buy my first home. This is where I'm going to invest my money, knowing that in the long term, I want to buy my first home. When it comes to kind of saving and investing and tips, starting early is really important. And you don't need to start with a large amount. Really, it could be small, but if you think about it, if you were to start investing when you're 20 versus when you're 30, you'll have a lot more when you're 50 if you were to start earlier. Also, living below your means and saving the difference, especially as we get new jobs, maybe start making more money. Just because we have more money doesn't mean we should be spending more money. And so just, being realistic about what your means are and then setting aside that money for investing or savings. And then also investing for the long term, not short-term gains. I think that a lot of young people panic, buy, or sell when they see financial markets do really well or poorly. And so just keeping your mind on the long term, what are you trying to achieve, and not letting your emotions get the best of you.
Wow, amazing, fantastic. And how can parents help their kids and set them up for financial success?
Yeah, I think parents play an integral role when it comes to helping their kids prepare for financial success. And there's various different methods. For me, what I think about first is kind of teaching them those financial or investment literacy topics early on, whether that is integrating them into conversations at the dinner table, just so that they're familiar about what these terms mean. And again, Money Gains is an amazing resource because we take these more complex ideas and really remove the jargon and try to simplify them. So that's always a great start. Also encouraging smart money habits. So let's say you were to gift your child money for a big occasion, a milestone for their birthday, encouraging them to maybe save some of that money. Like we were saying, maybe it's for a short-term goal, maybe it's for long-term investments, but actually teaching them what it means to budget and to save and to invest. And then lastly, maybe if an account isn't already open for them, help them open an account. They might hear about these terms, they might hear about a tax-free savings account or an education account, but they're not going to know how to open it. And so being there to provide them guidance and also being there to show them what it looks like for the money to grow, I think will provide them with that motivation and the confidence. And so I think those are great starting tips when it comes to preparing your child for financial success.
And just to summarize, Julianna, why is it so important for young people to start thinking about their financial future and their investment journey?
Yeah, I think that when we think about saving and investing and we think about budgeting and we think about money in general, it's scary. It's a scary topic because we don't want to think about losing money. Why is it important? First of all, starting early leads to compound growth. We talked about how starting young, there's more time on your hands for the money to grow. And so you have time by your side when you are younger. Secondly, it helps to build strong habits and also confidence. And so I think learning to budget and again, reaching those goals really provides you that confidence and it allows you to see that hard work pays off. And then lastly, it helps set you up for financial freedom and financial stability. Again, life gets more expensive. The older that we get, there's more things that we're trying to achieve, whether that's a first home, a first car. And so being able to budget and save and invest accordingly helps to set that foundation for financial freedom and stability later on in life.
Julianna, wonderful insights, great tips. Really appreciate you sitting down with me here in studio and sharing this with our audience. Appreciate
I had a
your
great time. Thank you for having me.
As a student or young person, there's a lot you're juggling on your plate. School, a job, social activities. But remember, it's never too late or too early to think about your investment journey. And consulting with a financial advisor is one of the best ways to make the most of your financial future. Before we go, we wanted to share some scenes from a recent ETF pop-up shop Fidelity held in Toronto. Our ETF pop-up featured fresh donuts, a live muralist, coffee and iced lattes, but more importantly, Fidelity Canada employees and experts on hand to talk about Fidelity's ETFs, all-in-ones, and investing. We wanted to create a welcoming, accessible, and fun environment for people to get to know Fidelity and what we have to offer. It was such a blast to meet so many people, students, younger individuals, and families. Such an amazing event, and I'm sure the first of many pop-ups in Fidelity's future. I'm Emily Anonuevo. Thank you so much for watching the Upside Plus, and we hope to see you next time.